Welcome to the Sports Insider Pro Daily Fantasy Football Podcast. From cash games to GPPs, we'll give you the info you need with breakdowns of all the games and key matchups to help you create your lineup. And now, here are your hosts, Ryan Hickswa and Justin Alvarez.
Hello, Insiders. My name is Ryan Hickswa. Welcome to the Sports Insider Pro Fantasy Football Podcast for Week 7. As you can see, I'm all by myself. Justin is away for the week, but I do have some of his notes, and we're going to dig in, give you some content, and help you guys pick some good lineups. As always, we love your support and would love to hear from you guys, so please subscribe down below. As always, it would be great to hear from you as well. Awesome. So let's get into this. We're going to go position by position. We're going to start with the quarterbacks. We do have on the top end Drew Brees, Prescott, and Cam, in your 7K range. I personally believe Prescott is my lock of the week. We know that San Francisco's defense is very susceptible to the pass, more so than the rush, but then again, they're susceptible to everything. So I'm going to lock and load with Dak Prescott and cash, probably a few GPPs, because I think he definitely has, a nice high floor that we want to see, and I think he can really go off. Because in the end, I also think that Dallas's defense isn't as good as we think. It's very vanilla, very easy to pass against. And I even think we'll see some success from San Francisco, keeping this kind of a shootout. I know Vegas has this as the highest implied total of the week, so it would make sense that we want to attack it. I don't mind Drew Brees here. We kind of saw 3 defensive touchdowns come from the Saints last week. I don't think you're going to see a lot of 13-point games out of Drew Brees many times. We know that the Green Bay's defense ranks pretty well against the pass, but still is very susceptible. We saw Case Keenum kind of, lock onto his guy. If you're going contrarian, I don't really mind Cam Newton. He should be able to make a few plays. Chicago's defense is home. They do play a better defense than we would think from a Chicago's Bear team. They are more susceptible to the run than they are in the air, but they do give up a lot of points. So I don't really mind Cam. In our 6K range, I'm not looking at a lot of these guys. Of course, there's Marcus Mariota, who should definitely rake in this matchup against Cleveland. I do think he's always a little capped. This Cleveland defense is a little better than what we expect, but it is very funnily. It's going to be tough for them Titans to run against Cleveland. If McCourty's out, it's a big loss for the Browns. And the Browns are, the best team to throw against. Also, they give up a crazy amount of points, too, because they're the Browns. So it wouldn't be silly to play a Mariota. I would even play him naked. I know it's hard to know who his targets are going to be. A little bit lower, you guys know I hate playing Old Man Palmer. I know he did it against Tampa Bay last week. He always seems to save you somehow. I'm just not going there. They have Adrian now. I don't know what that's going to turn into, but, this game is in England. I don't know what the travel's going to do to him. I'd rather pay up, 300 more and have Mariota. I'd rather pay down thousands to have some of the other guys that are below him. I am a little interested in Russell Wilson coming off the bye. This Giants defense hasn't really shown us anything important or that they're that good. They did well against the Denver Broncos. I do like Russell Wilson more at home always than away, but still, I don't mind it. Now for value, we have a lot of value plays this week. God, Kevin Hogan torched me so bad last week, and I'm sure Justin would have a lot to say about that to me this week. But this week we do have a few, cheap guys due to the injuries and quarterback rotations. We do have Brett Hundley at 5,100, who is an interesting play. I know people talk about college, but that was a while ago for Hundley. He did give up 3 turnovers to a very good Minnesota defense in Minnesota. So, I can't really hold that against him. Mike McCarthy said that this is his guy. They've been grooming him for the future. He's been their backup for a while. I don't mind taking the shot on Hundley. I don't think I'm playing him in cash. But I don't mind the play in cash. There is also below him Deshaun Kaiser, who has retaken the starting back role against a horrible Tennessee Titans defense. I think this is a fun GPP play. People were burned last week by playing so much Kevin Hogan that I think it'll scare them off of some of the cheaper quarterbacks. And I think that's a place that we can attack again. We know he has a ceiling, but he also has a floor. But it is Tennessee. I don't mind taking him, in a shot on a few GPPs. I won't be heavy on him. But I will be heavy on CJ Beathard. I'm really excited to see what he has to offer. I know the Kyle Shanahan offense wants to see what he can offer. They're finally getting away from the Briar Hoyer experiment. Being the cheapest of the bunch at 4,900, going up against a pretty easy vanilla defense in the Dallas Cowboys, I think he'll have a few opportunities to see what he's got. He did great against a Washington defense when he came in. A little inefficient at 52%, but I don't think they're going to force him to throw much, but I do see them getting down and the game script playing in their, benefit. Other than that, I don't really like anyone else. Those would probably be my main plays. I don't mind Jared Goff in this situation. He's, top 10 in almost every metric when it comes to quarterbacks. He went up against a very tough Jacksonville team, and he was still able to put up a touchdown, no interceptions. I think that's important. I know you can kind of attack this Arizona defense. So I think through the air he might be a fun GPP play that people won't be on. I don't see a lot of people being on these middle tier quarterbacks other than Mariota. I feel like everyone's going to be on top of him. I don't think people will be so on to Breeze and Prescott. I think they're going to want to pay down in order to fit some more studs in the skill position. So someone like Goff could be a fun pivot for GPPs. And the running back position, when I first looked at this slate, I thought it was going to be really tough. They got really tight again in DraftKings like they did in Week 5. But as I looked at it, there's some pretty decent plays here. I would suggest for everyone, do not, wait until Sunday morning to set up your lineups. There's a lot of injury concerns across all the positions that are going to really open up some value for us, especially in the wide receiver position and probably in the tight end position. I don't mind Le'Veon Bell. I don't mind Zeke. Again, we have to wait and see what's going to happen to Leonard Fournette. But we all know that everyone can always run on the 49ers. I don't think that that's going to change with Zeke. I think they're going to want to establish the ground game, and make this an easy win after losing 2 out of the past 3 games. I think Bell's a lock. You know what his floor is going to be. He's actually the one that's seen the least amount of time against Cincinnati since he's been out, I believe, 2 or 3 of the past 4 games. He draws a pretty decent matchup. Cincinnati's ranking 14th against the run. They haven't really gone up against many, a lot of competition, playing running games. Buffalo has a good running game. Cleveland doesn't have a running game. Green Bay doesn't have a running game. Houston doesn't have a running game. So I think some of those numbers, when it comes to their scoring metrics and Green Bay's really and Houston are the only 2 good offenses they've had to play. And Houston was during week 2 when Deshaun Watson was just coming out. So, I think some of their defensive numbers are a little inflated. But again, I don't mind playing them. Again, we have to wait until Sunday to see what happens with Fournette. If he is out, I think Chris Ivory is a lock everywhere at 4,600, 4,800. There's a lot of good plays at the top. Everyone's talking about LaShawn McCoy. There's been reports that they are going to go back to a more basic scheme, blocking scheme like they did last year that'll help McCoy maybe get out into the open field a little better than the zone blocking scheme that they were using, over the past few weeks. Todd Gurley, I don't mind him. You should be able to do more of your damage in the air. So I don't mind seeing. I think the book might be starting to come out on Todd Gurley again, but he still has a nice floor. And then if he can get some targets in the passing game, he should be up for another decent day. I don't know which. You really can't pay for 2. There's not enough wide receiver depth or value, I think, to really help you try to fit in a Bell and Elliott or, 2 top-tier guys unless you pay down a little bit. I'm intrigued about C.J. Anderson. We kind of saw how the game flow goes when you try to put the ball into Trevor Siemian's hands, and that's not really what they want to do. San Diego's defense is good enough to stop that, but their rushing defense is atrocious. So I can definitely get on board a little C.J. Anderson. I think they're going to want to feed him early. The game got a little out of hand with the Jets pretty quickly, and we saw that they just took him out of the game. I don't really mind that. And in the same game, Melvin Gordon, he's got the questionable tag, which I always love to play guys with the questionable tag. I think they're just kind of resting him during practice in the week because they use him so much during the game. He's going to get so much volume, so many targets. I don't think he's going to have a 30-plus point game, but I definitely see a high floor of, 20 points. It's a good defense, but it is in San Diego or Los Angeles. Whatever that means, just means that there's going to be more Denver fans there than there are Chargers fans. But I don't mind the play. He's always been one of my guys, so I'll have him in enough. But I'm probably not playing him in cash, even though you probably should. But I will be playing a bunch of Mark Ingram, who we all called last week. Loved him and will love him again. There's supposed to be some weather in Green Bay, a lot of rain. So that's another reason why I'm not really on Breeze too much. We all know he does better in the dome on the track. But I think they'll be handing the ball off a lot. The game script should be good. I think he's got great volume. So I think he's a lock for me too. Now Howard, he's going to get the touches. I know the defense is tough, but he's going to get the touches. I don't mind him as a GPP flyer. I think people will be very off of him. He won't have any ownership, and he always has the ability to go up against good defenses and just because of pure volume, go up there and get you, 140 yards and 2 touchdowns like he did against the Steelers in Week 3. It's definitely always in the script for him. I'm kind of avoiding McKinnon. We have to watch out for DeMarco Murray this week. He might not play. If he doesn't play, then White definitely becomes, or Henry definitely becomes a big play. Again, I think I'm going to want Chris Ivory a little bit more for the savings, and the matchup against Indy is just a little bit better. But he's going to get fed too. Even if Murray does play, I see it on a limited basis, but it'll just be split and I won't want it. I'm not playing Jay Ajayi. I hate Jay Ajayi. Which means you should probably play Jay Ajayi. Love Christian McCaffrey. I think he's another one of my locks. He's been seeing targets, all up and down the field. He's not doing it in between the lines, in between the tackles, but no one really is in Carolina right now. I don't think Jonathan Stewart is that big of a threat to him. You want to attack Chicago, on the ground and using pass-catching running backs. Their linebacking core is a little beat up. I think McCaffrey definitely has a nice game, especially if Benjamin is out or in limited capacity. They're going to be checking down to McCaffrey all day. I don't mind Carlos Hyde this week. I know people are kind of off of him. I know Lee is back for the Cowboys linebacking crew, but he's going to get the volume. I think the play the hot hand was just, coach speak. You can run against Dallas. Again, I know some of those numbers are inflated because Lee wasn't in the past few weeks allowing running backs to go off, but in the end, he's going to get those targets. He's going to get volume. I think, if you wanted to play 3 running backs and put him in that situation, he has a good floor. Well, I guess he has a bad floor, but I don't think we see what we saw in Indianapolis really much at all. He was even able to get 14 points against a decent Arizona defense. They're going to be playing catch up. They're going to need someone in there who they know can do it. And I think Carlos Hyde's probably that guy. Underneath, God, I'm staying away from Adrian Peterson. God bless you, whoever you are that are all going to pay up for him. I won't be. And then, it gets pretty dirty down at the bottom. I don't mind Duke Johnson this week. I know I was on him last week, and you should have known. I should have known better. Thank God I kind of pivoted off of him to still nothing, but still in Buck Allen. But with Deshaun Kaiser back in, I think Duke is going to get more run. Again, this game should be more up and down, should shoot out a bit. I think they're going to need him in there for the versatility. And then everyone else is really pretty much just injury fodder. Chris Ivory and the such. I hear people talking about Marlon Mack. I don't get it. Maybe. Sure. But no, I'll stay away. Probably through and through. On the wide receiver end, we do have Brown and Green going against each other. I know Adam Jones is out. Justin thinks that Brown should eat. He probably should eat, but he's never really done well against Cincinnati. Cincinnati plays Pittsburgh hard. It's a divisional matchup, blah, blah, blah. People say that this might shoot out a bit, but I don't really see it. I don't think the Steelers' offense is good enough yet, and the Bengals aren't good enough yet. So I'll probably stay away. I might have a little bit of tournament exposure to Brown. The Steelers' defense has been pretty good against the pass. I don't mind A.J. Green. He's A.J. Green. He's going to get fed targets. But again, yeah, he'll probably break one. He's probably safer than Brown, but not really. I'd rather go a little lower and play some of these other plays. Des Bryant, we all know he's better in a easier matchup. Again, I do love Dak, but I think I'm going to go naked on Dak. I don't think I necessarily need Des Bryant. He's got a decent floor, but at the price, I want a little bit more of a ceiling. Someone, like Michael Thomas. The top end of wide receiver is really thin this week. I would imagine Michael Thomas is going to have pretty decent ownership, maybe not north of 20, but I see him definitely getting some heavy ownership. But again, remember that the weather's there. I don't mind Thomas. I think that his floor is what happened last week because, again, it just got so out of hand that they didn't have to throw the ball. I do believe Green Bay will keep it a little close and more competitive than what we saw last week against Detroit. I'm not a real fan of anyone else, kind of until we get into the 5K range. I don't mind Doug Baldwin, but again, home road splits, we all know he does better at home. But he does run in the slot, should be seeing DCR or TRC. I don't mind Landry. He's going to get the targets, especially if Parker is out, who has a doubtful tag. God, they played the Jets pretty recently. He had 10 points. We all know his floor. We all know what happens. He did have 14 targets. He's going to probably have another 14-target game. They're going to try to run Jay Ajayi, but I don't know how successful that's going to be. This Jets team's good, so they should, which is the craziest thing I've ever said. So they should be throwing, so I guess I don't mind Landry so much. I would probably want him over Nelson just because we don't know, what Nelson is going to do with Hundley yet. But I don't mind Nelson, but I probably would like him better, if the weather was a little better. I see a lot of, exposure coming on this New Orleans games in your typical spots, possibly. So it might be a nice pivot, looking at some of the shorter target guys, the dump-offs, things like that might just be easier for Hundley to see and easier to play in bad weather. Definitely off of most of the other guys until we get down to probably Adams. Devontae showed a nice rapport with Hundley. He saw 10 targets against a good Minnesota team while being shadowed by Xavier Rhodes. So I definitely can see Adams having a decent day. I do think he's going to be a little chalky. I do love Pierre Garçon. We know we don't like to attack the outside so much on the Dallas Cowboys, but he runs a lot of inside slants, things that are possessional, move the chains, which basically plays like a slot without being in the slot. With McCourty maybe being out, I don't mind Rashard Matthews this week. I'm always a big Matthews guy, especially now that Mariota's back. I know they all say that there's too many wide receivers there, but he has pretty good efficiency. Last week, 4 for 4. He gets 3 for 6, 6 for 10. He has a decent floor. He won't burn you by getting a 1.9 points. Thank you, Chris Hogan, for destroying my whole lineup last week, even with Kevin Hogan. Other than that, it drops off pretty hard. There's some value in the LA Rams group of wide receivers. We know we want to play anyone that isn't being covered by Peterson, which is Sammy Watkins. So I don't mind Cooper Kupp here. I know everyone is talking about Robert Woods. I certainly love Robert Woods this week. I think he's going to get a great uptick in volume. I think he sees his first touchdown. I think he's safe at 4K to play everywhere for some relief. I definitely see him getting at least 7 to 10 targets, maybe. especially with, like I said, Goff being such a decent quarterback this year. I think he has some decent play. I don't mind Allen Hurns this week. I know they don't want to throw the ball, but with Bortles, but they do because he's Blake Bortles. And if Marquise Lee is a little injured, I see him getting most of the targets. If Lee plays, I'm going to be a little more off of him. But he's at a good price at $4,100 in GPPs. No one's going to look at him. I think he's a decent play. People are going to look more on your Ricardo Lewis's, maybe Jaron Brown. He kind of gets lost, and I think he has a decent upside. I'm a little intrigued by Jeremy Curley this week. He had an okay game last time that these two teams met. He went 5 for 5 for 42 yards. They've been throwing him the ball a little bit more. His yardage has been down. I'm intrigued to see if this game shoots out at all. Obviously, he got so much play due to, it being New England and New England coming back. But then, I see one of these guys are going to go off. I don't really know if I know which one, Curly or Curse. I don't think it's Robbie Anderson. I know he was a full participant this week. Could be. Maybe you stack them all, go crazy. Millie Maker winner. That's just for you, Josh, and all your Jets love. The only other ones at the bottom I would really want to look at are probably Juju. With everything that's going on with Bryant, we see that he's establishing rapport. There was only 3 targets last week, but again, it really wasn't, the game plan. He has high efficiency. He's catching a lot of the ball he sees, and for decent yardage amounts. If he can get into the end zone this week, I think he'll give you a decent floor. I'm not really looking at him too much in GPPs. I don't see him going off. But again, with Jones out, the secondary being a little banged up, he might be worth a flyer. God, I wish there was some other fun stuff down here at the bottom, but I'm not really seeing it yet. I know some people are kind of want to be on Benny Fowler, but I don't see it. You're trusting Trevor Siemian to throw the ball, and that's probably your first mistake. So at tight end, we all have heard it. It's a really fun week for tight ends. A lot of people are, smart money says you might even want to play 2 tight ends this week because a lot of them have some decent matchups. The first thing I want to go over is Delaney Walker and his injury. We all love to play tight ends against the Browns. We have for 2 years. We continue to want to. He did not practice on Friday, so that would put Jonnu Smith into the lineup. And I think that's very intriguing to me. Again, and this is why I'm saying you might want to really, hold off on building your lineups until we have some more definitive answers on who's going to be starting. But if Smith has this all to himself at 2.6, I love that kind of value because then it allows you to really throw in those guys that you really want to give you a nice floor, those Bells, Zekes, and then you can play around with your wide receivers. I'm pretty sure the chalk is all going to Kittle. He is roommates with CJ last year in Iowa, I believe they went to. He's going to be chalky. There's so many good tight ends to play. I think ASJ's in a good situation. He 2 touchdowns last week. McCown is looking for him. He had 11 targets, 8 targets, 4 targets, 6 targets. So he's going to get targeted. I know the game script might not allow for him to be had 11 points, but Miami's defense is pretty bad against the tight end. I definitely see him doing well. Jimmy Graham's in a great spot. Cameron Brate, all he does is catch touchdowns every week. I don't know if this is going to be a week against a very good Buffalo defense, but he could do it too. I wouldn't be surprised. I think Witten is a decent play. It's crazy. People still think, Evan Ingram, people aren't on him, but he's going to get the targets, and he's going to get a lot. Seattle is going to be tough for him, so I'm probably going to fade him in this spot, but I would continue to look at him. Hunter Henry is one of my favorite plays this week. He's going up against a Denver defense that funnels to the middle. Everything's going to be open for him. They finally started to use him correctly like they were last year. He went 5 for 7 and 90 yards. I think you can almost guarantee that with a touchdown. Phillip Rivers, all he does is sling the ball. He's not going to want to just hand it off or dump it down to Melvin Gordon. I think Hunter Henry is going to be the way that he gets somewhat vertical on this Broncos defense. I still don't mind Zach Miller, 3,200 rookie quarterback throwing to him. I think he has a safe floor of 10 points. He was only thrown 2-3 times last week. Baltimore defense, not as good as Carolina. Carolina is a little easier. I don't mind it, but again, if Walker is out, I would definitely pay down. Nick O'Leary, we all know Tyrod Taylor, who people are expecting to go off a bit, loves the tight end. There's not too many outside weapons for him. I don't mind him at 3,100. I'm not in love with it, but if you want to save in the position, which is something I tend to do, I'm okay with it. But again, just keep your eye on this Tennessee situation, because that's a very big deal. I think that's definite savings. And then if you wanted to, pay up, but I just love paying down at tight end. But again, Kittle's probably my lock and load. But he'll probably be a lock and load for a lot of people. So again, you have a lot of play here in the tight end position. Last but not least, we'll go over some defenses. I definitely think that the Jaguars are going to get overlooked because they have such a high price tag. But again, there's only been 2 out of the 6 weeks that they haven't scored double-digit points. I kind of think this is going to be one of them. Brissett's pretty interception prone. I know it's home for them, and he's going to play better at home. But I don't really see that. I see them wanting to take some shots. This should be a decent, slow-paced game for Jacksonville. I don't mind the Bills, especially if Jameson Winston is hurt and Ryan Fitzpatrick plays. I don't mind Tennessee per se, just because they're going against Cleveland. Deshaun Kaiser's going to throw an interception. One of them's probably going to get run back for a touchdown. Again, that'll probably be a little chalky. I can see things being pushed onto the Saints just because of what happened to them against Detroit last week. Look, they're not going to score 3 touchdowns, but I do believe Hundley's going to hold on to the ball a little bit too long, take a few sacks, throw an interception or 2, especially in the weather. So I really don't mind the Saints at 3,000. They're probably one of my locks, them and the Jaguars. Justin really enjoys the Dolphins this week at 3,100. Being at home, I don't really mind that play. It's Josh McCown. But again, they've been playing better. I mean, they almost beat the Patriots. I'm not really looking for an letdown game from the Jets. God, this all sounds so weird. God, what is wrong with sports? If we're paying down, I know there's a lot of talk about the Chargers, just because they're only going to have to cover Demaryius Thomas with Emmanuel Sanders being out. I don't mind the play. It's going to be chalky, but if everyone else is going to be on it and you're just looking for a few points out of your defense, to help you fit a bunch of guys on there, I think it's a 3-stud running back week. I don't really like the value that much in wide receiver. So, that's going to be able to help you really get there. And I'm thinking that's it. So, thanks, guys. I know it's been a little shortened, and I know we don't have as much fun with Justin being out, but I want to thank you for watching. Good luck to you all. Again, subscribe down below. Catch us out on sportsinsider.pro for now. Check us out on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Stitcher, and iTunes. I want to thank you all again, and have a wonderful weekend. Good luck, everyone.